there's some, hello, the recording started. There's some important stuff on this one. It's about time and money. I could probably do an entire series on this one. Like, no joke. I could probably make several lessons, but I'm about to run through this because, we don't need to spend that much time. We could spend that much time. We don't need to spend that much time. So, um, here we go. I was trying to figure out if I could do some behind the scenes stuff, but nope. Oh well. All right. So we're going to start with time. I heard a quote the other day that blew my mind, and it's been continuing to blow my mind ever since I heard it. It was a podcast I was listening to, and the host of the podcast was talking to a billionaire, like not millionaire, billionaire. And when you think about numbers, million versus billion is like ridiculous. Like a million of something is like this, and a billion is like huge. This person has a ton of money, and she said, what is the most valuable thing in the world? And he said, the most valuable thing in the world is time, because you can always make more money, but you cannot make more time. And I was like, wow, so true. He's like, we're all, traveling along this timeline, and nobody's figured out how to make more hours in the day. We all get the same amount. It's like this great equalizer. We all have the same amount of time. It doesn't matter how much money you have. You cannot buy yourself more time. You have the same number of hours in the day as anybody else. So that's why managing it is so important. So got to think about where you spend your time. This is a good example for me today, because today I feel like I've had a hard time focusing. And so a lot of my time has been spent on stuff that's been distracting. But you need to think about where you're spending most of your time. If you're spending it scrolling devices or playing video games or sleeping or doing schoolwork or studying, hang out with friends or work, like some people have actual jobs or doing chores, or maybe it's a lot of these all mixed up. But it's interesting to see where your time actually goes. You could, if you wanted to, map that out and track it. I've seen people do that before. You don't have to, but my first assignment to you, I hate that, this is not school, would be to start to pay attention to where your time is going, particularly when you're getting distracted. What are you getting distracted by? And if we're talking mindfulness, which if you're watching this video later, we just came off of a mindfulness lesson, which is about being in the present. When we start getting distracted by stuff, it takes us out of the present moment. So if you're looking at a device, the device is pulling you out of what's happening in your environment and into what's happening on the screen. This is not me saying devices are bad. I obviously have one. We all have to, basically to live in the world these days. But just paying attention to like what's drawing our attention. Our attention is our time, and it's sacred. It's very valuable. We can't make more of it. So it's why it's important to pay attention to where your time goes. And then people look at me and they're like, schedules are dumb and boring. I don't want to follow a schedule. And you know what? Maybe they are. I've got friends who like to color code their planners, and they have everything marked out, and that makes them very happy. I have tried to be that person. I have tried buying the really fancy planner with the stickers and the highlighters. I like it, and it doesn't work for me. I have to be the girl that puts the calendar on the phone so that I get reminders. Hey, this thing starts in half an hour. Hey, this thing's starting in 10 minutes. Because if I don't, I will forget. So me using the phone and having like notification reminders is how I survive my life. That's me figuring out how to make sure I'm at my commitments and I'm not, missing things. That's how I keep my schedule. When are schedules helpful? I think they are helpful, to a degree. Like they're helpful. We can't just go through life flitting about. Not in the world we live in. You got to have a schedule. Like school, if everybody said just go to math when you feel like it, I could tell you there'd be people sitting in there all day, and there are people who would never go. So we have to have you need to be here at this time in order for things to function and flow well. Do you have a schedule that you keep? Particularly, do you have a schedule where you keep your other commitments? Like if you're doing extracurriculars, is there a place where that lives? Like a family calendar or your own agenda or a device? And you can just put that in the chat. You don't have to. Obviously, all chats are optional. But if you have a schedule, what does it look like and how do you use it? Or if you're like, I don't have a schedule, I just, freely move through my life. That's awesome. The other thing we have to know about is like not everybody's priorities are the same. Coming back to that. Family schedule. Yep. My husband's calendar is also synced with mine so that we can see what everybody's doing and keep track of like, oh, I want to go hang out with my friend that night. Let me look at the calendar. Oh, my husband has something going on. That's not going to work because somebody's going to keep the kids, right? So he already claimed that day. I got to pick it on a different day. You know what I'm saying? Like it's nice to have like a family schedule synthesis. Anyway, not everybody's priorities are the same. So the other thing about time is I cannot give you a blanket schedule like pre-filled out and say, this is your perfect life. Please go for it. Because there might be things missing from the schedule, or I might assign you things you don't want to do. What I'm saying is not all times work for all people. You got to find a schedule that works for you. Going for a run might be really important for some people. And so they're going to put that on their schedule every day or every other day. For other people, that's very not important. I do not want to go for a run. It's not going to make it on my schedule. I'm not going to use my time like that. That's fine. How do you get better at managing your time if you need more hours in the day? How do you do it? Well, I'll show you a few things. The first one is the Pomodoro technique, which Pomodoro is Italian for tomato. Rumor has it that the guy who invented this had a tomato on his desk, I think, when he created it, and that's why it's called a Pomodoro. It has nothing to do with the schedule, but that's why there's a tomato on the slide. Here's how you do this technique. This technique is supposed to help you stay on task and work hard. What we have realized as human beings is that if we sit you down, we say, you must work like a dog to get this thing done, your productivity is going to slow down. The quality is going to be garbage. You can't just work nonstop. I mean, some people do, but I would venture to say that after a while, your quality of work that you do is going to suffer. So this is why techniques like this come about. You got to choose a task you have to get done. I will give you an example from my background. I played piano and took lessons all the way through elementary, middle school, high school. And when I was up in my junior, senior year, I was practicing for recitals that were like 30 minutes worth of memorized music that I had to play. And that takes a lot of practice to get 30 minutes of finger, movement into your brain. And not all the time did I want to practice. Okay. So I would do this Pomodoro technique, or a version of it that I created. So my task would be, I need to practice my piano. So I'd set a timer. Example, 25 minutes. Oh, we got friends coming in. Give me just a second. I'm going to pause the recording. Resuming. So let's say you have a task you have to get done. So I had to practice a lot. And so I would sit there and I would say, I got to practice my piano. And so I would set a timer maybe for 15 minutes. They give 25 minutes as an example here. Your task could also be, I need to sit and study, or I need to read this text, or I need to whatever it is that you have to do for your life. I'm using piano practice. So I have to practice piano, and I sometimes get bogged down. And we talked about a moment ago, you can't just start and then power through, because eventually your quality is going to suffer. You're not going to produce great things because you're going to get fatigued. The Pomodoro technique puts breaks in there, which is so helpful because it keeps you motivated and it keeps you from getting like brain fried. So I'm practicing my piano. I practice for 15 minutes or whatever it is. Put away all distractions, do your task, whatever it is, put all of your attention at it, studying, piano, whatever it is. When the timer rings, you put one check on a piece of paper, and then you take a break. So 5 minutes, I'm going to get up. I walked away from the piano. I'm going to do something else. I'm going to look at my phone. I'm going to go outside. I'm going to go get a snack. Like, I'm going to go look at something different, refresh the brain. After 5 minutes, I would come back and I would repeat that process. Okay, 15 more minutes. It feels like you're putting the work into chunks, and it's a better management of time. Instead of sitting there being like, I have so much work to do and I don't want to do it. A lot of it is not procrastination that we have a problem with. I saw this on a TikTok. Sorry, I feel like I talk about TikTok a lot. I just learned so many things. Anyway, our problem is not procrastination. Our problem is initiation. Once you get started, you tend to just kind of like be in the zone, but it's the initiation, the starting, that's the problem. But once you get started, it becomes much easier to keep going. So just pay attention to, if you're putting something off, it's probably not that you're procrastinating the whole entire thing. You'll be fine when you get there. You just got to get over the hurdle of starting it. You repeat that step over and over, do 15 minutes, take a break, 15 minutes, take a break. And then once you've done it about 4 times. So you've done 4 15-minute chunks. That's about an hour. With that doesn't count the breaks. Then you can start to take a longer break. Okay. I've already done an hour worth of work on this. I'm gonna start taking a longer break or be done, depending on what it is. Like I practiced an hour, I'm good for the day. See you later. You know what I'm saying? But it makes it to where your brain stays sharp and you're attentive instead of getting totally burnt out on what you're doing. So that's one time management technique. This was also one of the coolest things that I saw. And I saw it in a magazine and was like, what the heck? I needed this. So it's hard to determine sometimes the things that we're doing that are eating up our time. So this guy came up with the Eisenhower Matrix. You don't need to memorize it. What you need to know is there are 4 different types of things, okay, that eat up our time. You'll notice on this chart, don't freak out that it's a chart. It's not a hard chart. Stay with me. On the top, urgent and not urgent. Okay. So we've got things that are in one of 2 categories, either urgent or it's not urgent. On the side, we've got important and not important. Everything falls into one of these 2 things on both sides. Okay. Follow me. So quadrant number 1, the top left box, those are things that are urgent and important. Okay. So it's urgent and it's important. That's a big deal. That's like your house is on fire. That is urgent. You need to do it now. And it's important that you do it. So urgency is about when you have to act on it. Importance is about how, prioritize wise. It's important if there's an emergency and it needs to be handled right away. So crying baby, urgent and important. You need to handle the baby's needs. Kitchen fire. Some calls, like you might have an important call that you have to make. This is created for adults, but like, you need to speak to a teacher right now, or someone asked to go see you at the office at school. Yeah, you should probably go do that. And you should probably go do that right away. You know what I'm saying? That's number 1. Not many things fit into box 1. Not everything is important and urgent. Only a few things are important and urgent. Let's move to box 2. Important, but not urgent. Important is like exercise. It's important to exercise, but you don't do it right now. You know what I'm saying? Like you can do that later, but it's still important. You need to do it at some point. Your vocation, so your work, okay? You need to do your work. It's not an emergency to do your homework, but you should still do it. And you need to find a time to do it. You don't have to go run to your backpack, but still do it at some point. Planning for whatever, like making your schedule, whatever. Again, this is more for a work context, but basically just setting up your life, doing your chores, et cetera, et cetera. Like that stuff's important too. Maybe not urgent, but important, right? Most things will go in here or in box 3, which is urgent, but not important. What is something that would be like, you got to do it in a hurry, but it's not important? You're like, I don't know. It's kind of weird. So something interrupts you. Like, you get a phone call from someone, you need to take it right then, or you got to answer a text, or example, my kids, somebody drops something on the floor and it spills. Okay, it's not important. Like it's not life or death situation if the milk stays on the floor, but I should probably take care of it right now because we don't want it to sit. You know what I'm saying? Distractions, stuff that pulls your attention one way or the other. That's stuff that's urgent, but not important. Most things will fall into the second one or this third one. And then number 4, not urgent. So it's not, you don't have to do it in a hurry, and not important. It's not even important to do. So busy work, scrolling the phone, daydreaming, time wasters, the stuff that wastes your time. For me, I'm going to use TikTok as an example again. Me scrolling TikTok, that is not important. It is not important that I look at TikTok. Much as I enjoy it, I don't need to. It's certainly not an emergency that I need to go handle right now. No. Watching TV, not urgent, not important. The goal would be to put as little stuff into that 4th box as you can, to spend as little of your time on that. Now, it is important though. I will say, I'm saying it's more. At some point, we do need to turn our brain off and just like consume some junk like TikTok or TV, or, read a book just for fun. Like it's okay to do things just for fun, but you should not have the majority of your life be in that 4th box. So think right now about where in your life things are falling a lot of the time. I will say most of my life is probably box 3. Urgent and needs to be handled right now, but maybe not important. And I think that's because I've got small children and I get distracted a lot. I get interrupted a lot. They require a lot of my attention. So I think I land there a lot. I'll speed it up just a little bit. Just an idea for you guys. If you're big into journaling, I have off and on in my life journaled. I'm not in the habit right now, but I have done it in the past. This is an example of a way of just kind of becoming aware of where you're spending your time. So this person here has had goals for ways they want to spend their time. They want 8 hours of sleep, and then you draw these little circles, and then every night that you get 8 hours of sleep, you fill in a circle. Or you take your vitamins, or they're big into intermittent fasting. So they're fasting, they meditate, they do yoga. So all the days that you do that and you spend your time the way you want to, you fill in a bubble. Just an idea for you guys. You certainly don't have to do it, but if you like bullet journaling, that's the journals that have the little dots. They're not lined, they're little dots. It's just something to think about. If you were to start bullet journaling, that's one of these habit trackers, is one of the ways that people like to use this, is where they put these things they want to accomplish each day, and then they just color it in on the days, and they use pretty pens to make it nice. I have done a bullet journal before, again, just not in the habit of it right now. All right, shifting gears completely to the thing people feel like they have like the most opinion about ever. Quick break to turn on my lights. 30-second break, folks. It's just y'all aren't gonna be able to see me. Hang on. It's just getting dark in here. Okay. Hopefully I'll be more illuminated. When I start this at 4:30, like I'm in the broad daylight, and then by the time I get to adulting, it's like dusk, dark. Anyway, so we're shifting from we're shifting from time. Time is important. Now we're moving to money. We're talking about how you manage your money. Because you're all going to have to deal with money at some point, right? If you don't have any money right now, that's fine, but you are going to have to deal with money just to live in society. We have to, it's necessary. Also, money is neither good nor evil. People will talk like money is a bad thing. Money is morally neutral. It is all about how you spend it and how you relate to it. If you are a chronic obsessor of money, or you'll do anything in the world to get money becomes an obsession of yours, like that's probably not good. But that's about your relationship to it. If you're someone who's very benevolent with their money, very responsible with their money, then money is a good thing, because then you can do more good in the world. It's all about how you use it. Money in and of itself is neither a good or a bad thing. All right, so if you have your money, if you do have money, where are you spending it? Clothes, video games, food? Do you even receive money at this point? You may or may not. Just interesting to think. Just take a second, think about, if you have money, where you're spending it. I know online shopping is a problem. Clothes, yes. I bought clothes yesterday. I bought this sweater yesterday, which is nice. But then, did I really need another sweater? Probably not. So, but it's okay. It's also okay to treat yourself. You just don't want everything you're buying to be a treat. You need to spend your money on important things first, and then treats as like an actual treat. It's like Cookie Monster says cookies are a sometimes food. New clothes should be a sometimes purchase, not an all the time purchase. All right, money's made to be spent, baby. Yes and no. There are a lot of things you can do with your money besides spend it on stuff as soon as you get it. Here's what you can do with your money besides spend it. And I know people, and people have a lot of opinions about money. And people don't, in America, part of the American like culture is that we don't talk a lot about like how much money we make and where we spend it, and how much our house costs and what our house payment is, and how much we have saved. Like, people don't really discuss that. And I'm not saying they need to, but it can be hard to figure out how to work money if nobody's really telling you about it, which is why I'm here to tell you about it, right? I like to think I do a really good job of managing my money, and I can credit that to my mom and my grandfather, who were both very particular about how their money is spent. And so they instilled a lot of good habits in me that have served me well. I also chose to marry someone who I have similar values with money. And let me say that right now, I don't care who you marry or if you get married, but whoever you partner up with in your life, make sure you guys are on the same page about money, and that it's okay to have different philosophies. Like, my husband's more of a spender and I'm more of a saver, but he's not like throwing the money around and spending everything we make. I'm also not hoarding the money in a cave and refusing to spend it. We have a good balance, and no one's doing anything that's like having to be kept secret from the other, or, critical issue with the other. Like, you need to find someone that you can be in sync with, even if you're not perfectly aligned, that you guys can get on the same page. So small piece of advice for your future relationships. Things you can do besides spend money immediately. You can save it. So by, tucking it under the mattress is one thing. Hope the mattress doesn't disappear, because then your money disappears. Or putting it in a bank. I know some people can be mistrustful of banks, but banks are a really secure way of saving your money. Banks are safe. They are able to keep your money and hold on to it. They will insure your money up until a certain point. It's usually like $750,000 that they can guarantee that they can supply you. Now, once you get higher than that, and I might be saying that number wrong, but around that point, more than that in the bank, and they can't guarantee that amount of money if you wanted to withdraw it. But up until that point, they're like, yeah, we can make sure you get your money when you want, and get the full amount. So don't worry about a bank. You could also invest it. So the cool thing about a bank is, like, if you save your money will generate interest. In a regular savings account, it's like a few cents here and there, and it eventually adds up. Investing it is a more risky kind of way of putting your money places. They won't insure it. Like, if you invest your money, you're basically saying, I'm okay if all this money were to go away. But most of the time when you invest your money, like in the stock market, it will, and it goes up and down depending on how the stock market does, but it depends on how risky of an investment that you made, but a lot of times it will generate more money. And if it's a really successful investment, it will generate a ton of money. So you're not going to make a lot of money on a savings account. You have the potential to make a lot of money in an investment account, but you also have the potential of losing all of it in an investment. Okay. So you see the difference. The bank is going to make sure you have that amount of money and you're not going to lose it. Investing is like you're taking a risk, and you could make a lot more, or you could lose all of it. But you can also invest it in a safer investment. Like, yeah, they're not going to insure it, but the chances of it getting totally wiped out is really low. It's just that gets really complicated, but you can kind of pick how much risk you're willing to take when you invest your money. Saving it, if you don't want the money to grow, then you can put it in the savings account and it will be there and it will be safe. Not going to go anywhere. All right, next. Okay, we're going to play. So I'm actually going to come back to this if we have time. I'm going to come back to this if we have time. All right. Another thing you need to determine with money is needs versus wants. Okay, so we're going to play a game where, well, let me back up. A need is a must pay situation. You cannot get out of paying this. It's necessary for you to survive or for you to maintain your security. Okay, and you'll see what I mean. A want is you could live without it. It's fine. I have created a list here of things, and I want to hear, as we go down one by one, whether you think it's a need or a want. Some of these are going to be obvious. Some of them I've made it kind of weird on purpose, where it can, maybe it goes one way or the other. All right. First, rent. So how much do you have to pay to be in your house every month, or your mortgage if you own your house? Is that a need or a want? Again, blow up that chat. I'm gonna give you guys just a couple of seconds here because we're gonna get a long list. Yes, rent is a need. You got to pay your rent or you won't have a place to live. You're gonna get evicted. So you got to pay that. When you're looking at how much money you make a month in the future, you need to make sure you have enough to pay the rent. Yes, it's a need. Okay. You're bored of the food at home, and so you decide you're going to eat out. Need or want? It's okay to put an N or a W too. That's fine. I'll know what you mean. Ooh, yeah. Okay. So technically this is a want, because if you have food at home and let's say you're tight on money, eating out is a great way to spend a lot of money. Like, it is expensive to eat out, y'all. Like, cooking at home is so much cheaper than eating out. Now, this is being said by someone, I'm literally going to go out to eat tonight. So like, I know what I'm saying, and I love to go to restaurants as one of my favorite things, but restaurants are very expensive compared to cooking at home. So if you're just bored of your food at home and you just feel like going out, that's not a need, that's a want. That's just, you feel like you could live without going out to eat. If you have food at home. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying, in terms of needs and wants, if you have food, but you just feel like getting something different, then you could live without it. It's okay. It's a want, not a need. All right. Movie tickets, need or want? Yeah, that's a want. Any kind of experience like that, you definitely could live without. You're not gonna, die if you don't go to the movies. All right, power bill. Do you need to pay your Power bill. Yeah, I would say utilities are pretty much a need. Like, could you technically survive without power? Sure. It would not be fun though. This is like maintaining your security and your comfort. Like, you're gonna need to pay your power bill. All right. Black Friday sale at a favorite store and it's 75% off. Need or want. Yes, that's a want. That's a want. I love this because when you go to a place, it's like, oh my gosh, I saved so much money because this place had a 75% off sale. Technically, unless you were going to buy the stuff anyway, you didn't save anything. You just spent money. You maybe didn't spend as much as if it was full price, but if you weren't going to buy it anyway, it was extra. You were just like, I walked by here, I saw a store that had a good sale, I bought some stuff, I saved so much money. Well, you weren't going to go there unless you saw the sale. So you kind of just spent money you didn't need to spend. Do I do it? Yes, I do. I love a good sale, but technically I don't need it. So could live without. Diapers and formula for your kids. Yes, need. Gotta feed the kids, gotta keep them diapered. That's necessary. That's necessary for them. So that's one of the stuff like in the future, if you have kids and it's expensive, it takes a huge chunk out of that. Tattoo. Let's say you want to get a tattoo, need or want. As cool as it is, it's a want. And tattoos are expensive. So you can certainly save up for it. But like if you're really tight on money, think about, do I need to spend $200, $300 on a tattoo or do I need to pay my rent? You need to pay your rent. All right. Get a new pet. Yeah, pet is a want. I love pets. Love it. It's like if you win a free goldfish at the fair, it's not going to be free because you got to buy the bowl, you got to buy the food, you got to clean it out with the supplies for the cleaning thing. It's like a free goldfish gets pretty expensive, pretty quick. So, it's fine. I'm not saying, again, this is not me saying don't do these things. We all need to live a little. It's okay to spend money on wants and not needs. You just got to make sure you're aware of the difference. All right. Taxes. Yeah, you got to pay your taxes. You could go to jail if you don't. Need to pay your taxes. Need to pay your taxes. A clothes subscription box, where they send you clothes in a box every month and you try them on and you can send them back if you don't want them, and anything you want to keep, you can keep. Ooh, Abby says it depends on your situation. Yeah. Yeah. I will say that any kind of subscription box, those are sneaky. And I do have subscription things, but I will forget about them and then it will just keep charging me and sending me stuff. And then I'm like, wait a minute. I will say if you're in need of clothes, a subscription box is probably the more expensive way to go. Cheaper would be to go to like a Goodwill or, just a regular clothes store, not like a fancy boutique, just something basic. And you can find really cute stuff too. Y'all, I actually saw on TikTok, God, I'm telling on myself today, a girl who thrifts all her clothes and she looks amazing. So there's plenty of things to find. I would just say the subscription box, if that's the way you want to go, that's fine, but it's probably more expensive to do that than it would be just to go buy it. All right, take your boo to dinner to the nicest restaurant in town. Need or want? Oh, yeah, that's a want. You might feel like it's a need. Like, I really need to impress this person. No. As fun as that is, as a want, you don't need it. You could live without it. There's also a lot of really cool cheap date ideas where you could go and like picnic at the free park with the McDonald's instead of going to the nicest restaurant in town. Just as a thought. If they love you, you won't need to. Yeah. You can have a good time wherever you're at, right? Surgery. Surgery. Oh, yeah, this is the one where it's like, oh, yeah, depends on the kind of surgery. A necessary surgery, let's say you're in a car wreck and we need to go in and fix you up because we don't want internal bleeding, you need it. You're going to need that. That's for your survival. Want a nose job because you don't like the nose? That's definitely a want. You could live without it. I know for some people it's like, but my self-image and my confidence, I really need this. Like, okay, fair. I'm not saying don't get plastic surgery. I'm just saying your survival does not depend on it. And if you're tight on money, you need to think about that. Certainly save up for it, but a life-saving surgery is different than an elective surgery. New brakes for your car. You need. You gotta have your brakes. You don't want to have a wreck. I'm saying this. I literally wrote that one because I need brakes on my car. Not bad. I just like soon need brakes, but buying that kind of stuff is like not the fun part of adulthood, I will say. But like tires are probably the lamest purchase of an adult, and they're really expensive. It's like you get a flat tire and then you end up taking it. You have to pay for a tow truck half the time. You end up taking it to the place. They look at it. They're like, yeah, all your tires are bad. The rest of them are going to go. And you're like, okay, how much is it going to be? They're like $400. And I'm like, oh, fun. Here you go. And then it's not like a fun purchase. It's not like $400, nice hotel and dinner. No, it's like you get tires on your car. You already had tires on your car. They don't really look much different. Now you have $400, but you need them. So it's kind of stinks. Those kind of purchases are not fun. All right, a budget. Budget is a plan of what you do with your money that you earn so you can use it to support your priorities. Y'all know what a budget is. It's planning out what you use your money for. And again, if you're not making money right now, that's fine. But in the future, you might need a budget, okay? There are plenty of apps out there that will like you put in your budget and then you can sync it to your bank account and it will tell you like, okay, you're about to go over on your like out to eat fund for the month. When you budget, you can guarantee that you're going to have money for the necessary ones and you're also going to have money for your fun items too, because you will be able to save up for it. So I'm going to give you a scenario. You make $100 a week and you buy $100 VIP ticket for a concert, but now you have no money left to get to the concert. Fail. You could afford the ticket, right? You make $100 a week. The ticket's $100, but you didn't think about like, well, I got to get gas to get there. And gas right now is expensive. Well, you know, I'm not going to be able to eat any food there. Won't be able to buy any merchandise. Like, I mean, if I can find a way there, I can go, but you know, I have no way. Here's why budgeting is helpful. Let's say you want to go to this concert. So you save $25 out of your budget for a month. And then you've got enough for the ticket, and then you've got $75 left over that final week where you could buy gas. So it's like when you budget, it's like you're not knocking out your whole savings or your whole like paycheck. You've got like a little bit that builds up, and then you can do the fun things you want to do because you saved up for it. Here's another thing, another bullet journal idea. You don't have to do this, but you see this person drew these little squares and they've got goals here for saving up $1,000, then $2,000, then $3,000. I think each of these squares is $100. And so every time they put away that much money, they color in the square. And it's just a motivational way of like, you know, because when you see every square get filled in, you're like, oh, cool. It's just a reward-based way of measuring your progress. So just another idea for you guys. You certainly don't have to do it. All right. The enemy of time and money management is, and I would say procrastination. So putting off a task so long that it may keep you from doing it well, right? Because you might wait to the last minute, but maybe you're not doing it well. Or like I said earlier, initiation. That can be a struggle, is just getting started and sitting yourself down and be like, I'm going to start doing this. And then impulsiveness, acting on the spur of the moment without thinking about the results of it. So spending your money on something like, this is so cool, I love this, it's so fun. And being like, you know. I had a friend one time who needed to go get her hair done. And so she decided to go to this really nice salon to get her hair done. She's sitting in the chair. The person's taking a long time. They're coloring her hair. She can tell her hair is looking beautiful. Like she's loving it. And then at the very end, the woman says, I'm going to need $200 for the hair service. I'm like, thanks. And that doesn't count tip because you have to tip these people. And she didn't have that money in her account. She had to call someone to loan her the money real quick. So it's just do your research. It's okay to get your hair done, but probably should have called the person and said, hey, how much is this service? I'm thinking about coming in. That way she would have known ahead of time how much money he was going to spend, because you don't want to get caught in that situation. Like, it's just, you know, and it happens to everybody. I've been at places where the card got swiped and then they're like, it got declined. And I'm like, what the heck? So that's not fun. If your card gets declined, that means, you know, you don't have enough money on your card to pay for whatever it is that you're trying to pay for. Hasn't happened in a while, folks, but it has happened. Everybody has those moments, but try to do your research and then it won't happen. Let me also say this about credit cards. It's just my personal philosophy towards a credit card. A credit card is basically money that you promise you're going to pay back, right? Like that's what a credit card is. You don't have to have that money sitting in your bank. You can just be like, swipe, I'm going to pay that later. My opinion is that you should treat a credit card like it is coming straight out of your bank. You should try to not pay for something that you don't have the money for. Because it's very easy to treat that thing like Monopoly money and just be like, swipey, swipe, 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 swipe. And then you're shouldering a lot of debt, which would be money you have to pay back. And then you're stuck with trying to pay it. And the longer you go without paying it, the higher the cost is going to be, because there's going to be interest on it. And so they tack on extra money that you have to pay back. So I would, and I know for some things we have to put it on credit card. I'm not saying credit cards are evil. We need them. I have them. Like, you need to use them, but I do not treat it like a plaything. I treat it like it's real money that I'm going to pay back, and we pay it back at the end of every month. I know some folks can't do that, but it is a nice goal and has worked out well for us to treat it that way. So, that is just my 2 cent philosophy for you. You're going to need a credit card at some point. You got to have credit. If you don't know what credit is, it's basically a score that they give you. Like, they say Ellen has this number score. It's anywhere from like 200 to 800 is like a perfect score. I'm going to make one up. Okay. This is not my real credit score, but let's say my credit score is like 500. They will, when I'm trying to buy a car, when I'm trying to get a house, they will look at that score, and that score is going to tell them how good I am at paying my money back. That's what that score means. If I have a really good high score, 750, they're going to go, oh yeah, we'll give you this car. We'll give you an expensive car if you want, because we know you're going to pay it back. You're pretty faithful about it. If I have a bad score, then it's going to be really hard for me to secure a car loan or a house loan, because they're going to be like, we're not sure you're going to pay that back. You haven't been always so great about paying it back. So just something to think about. And if you miss a payment, it will immediately dink your score and bring it down. So got to be careful. That's the other thing with credit cards. You need to pay it back faithfully, or it will affect that credit score, and it will keep you from being able to like buy a car or buy a house. I mean, you could still buy a car, on Facebook Marketplace for $1,000. You don't need credit for that. But if you ever wanted to go to a dealership, if you ever want to get a house loan, you've got to have some sort of credit. And that means that you've got a credit card and you've been faithfully paying it back. So that's how you build good credit. Anybody got questions? I know I just dumped all that at you. That was a lot of stuff. How are we feeling? Money. Anybody got thoughts, opinions on money? Something they learned about money? A good saying they heard about money? My grandfather grew up in the Depression. Okay. So where so many people were without jobs, so many people were very, very, very poor. And his family was very poor. They lived on a farm in Virginia. And so they like scraped by growing their own food and getting by with people sewing their own clothes. No, like fruits, like apples, oranges. That was like a luxury, to eat an apple or to eat an orange, because fruit was very expensive and hard to come by. And that is why they would put in my stocking at their house, because I had a stocking at their house, they would put fruit in it. And just never, my grandmother still will put apples and oranges in our stocking, because to her growing up, that was like a special treat. I know we can go to the store. She knows we can go to the store and buy it, but like in her mind, what goes in a stocking is fruit, because that's very special. So that comes from that mentality. And because he grew up like that, that deeply affected him. And so for the rest of his life, he was very particular about his money and making sure that his money was safe and secured. And that he barely spent it on anything. He just, if it wasn't necessary, he didn't spend it. Now you can definitely go too far. And I don't want to speak ill of my grandfather who's no longer with us, but I do think he went too far with that. I think it's okay to spend money on things, but it's also good to take a leaf out of his book and save money as well. You never know what's going to happen. Rainy day fund is always important. I would suggest once you guys get a job, strive to try to get, and I know this is hard, and just make it a goal of yours as soon as you start working, being employed, try to get a $1,000 emergency fund that you don't touch. Put the one that, because things will happen. When my husband and I, this is my last story, then I'll let y'all go. When my husband and I had just gotten married, we had no money. I don't even want to tell you how much money we made that year. It was sad. Like, I was unemployed most of the year because I was looking for a job and there weren't any. He was in an internship. They didn't pay barely anything. We had no insurance. So we were knocking on wood that nobody would get hurt because we wouldn't be able to pay for anything. Like we were eating, whatever was like cheap out of a can because that was what we could afford. We just didn't have a lot of money. Couldn't buy any Christmas presents for folks that year. We just didn't have any extra, and what I'm saying about that is because I know people have lived that. That's not a unique experience to me. Other folks have lived that. I get it. But my point is that we had an emergency fund because we had a wreck on New Year's Day in 2013, and it like ruined his car. It was able to be fixed, but we had to pay like $800 to get his car fixed, and that was our only car at the time. So thankfully we had some money saved up so that we could drive a car because we had to go to work. So I will suggest that you just put that money in and forget about it because you might need it at some point. And it's nice because otherwise we would have been up a creek. Okay. So any other thoughts about that? Yes, no, maybe so. I know I tell lots of stories. Thank you for indulging me. If you gotta go, now's a good time. I appreciate y'all hanging out with me. I'm going to stop the recording. We didn't get a chance to play the game.